What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Wine Wednesday. Happy to see you all here. What's up, Baja Express, AO, Clemson, Sandre, Thomas Check? Good to see you guys all here. What's cooking? Welcome to our pointless show called Wine Wednesday, where we talk about the things that we can't talk about with our significant others, mainly stocks. They're sick of hearing it, so we want to talk about it in front of you guys. It is the week 11, 2024, year of our Lord, as
There you
Dom would
go.
say. And just happy to have you all here and grateful. We got Thanksgiving coming up, so maybe we have a little gratuity episode going on right now. We usually start the show by asking each other what we're having to drink, but hey, we want to know what you guys are having to drink as well in the chat. Let us know. We're here to just chat. I
We're here to
yeah,
chat in
thought
the
we have.
chat. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking wine. I'm in Los Angeles with my family, so the dad's house right now, so I stole his wine. So we got a nice Chianti.
Love Chianti, Italian.
Ah, nice. Look at how cultured you've become.
Very cultured. Very jealous as well. It's actually been a month and 2 days since I've had my last drink. I guess no longer than that technically, but I'm having tea, peppermint, in the Jolly glass because we're getting close to Christmas season.
Nice.
So
We're feeling jolly.
we're feeling jolly.
So, how are you, Dom? First Wine Wednesday with you in quite some time. You've been trading for about 2 weeks or maybe 5 days. How's it been?
It's been quite good actually. I'm not trading all that much. I get so tired during after the morning session that I like nap and then I find out it's 4 o'clock and I miss the afternoon session. So, but it's been like kind of nice, like not sitting in front of the screens all day, like just focusing on trying to get paid in the morning and then move on. It's and then like knowing that I'm done and that whatever I've locked in for the day feels kind of good, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Usually like one or two trades a day. I got to get all sorts of caught back up on my tracking because I got set back there a little bit. But it's been nice trying to just sit back, wait for really easy trades. I've been a little hesitant on some stuff that we talked about it in the webinar yesterday. The BTCS, BTCT for screen days yesterday. Just a little trigger shy, but it will come back in due time. I just don't want to be stressed anymore with trading. So trying to figure that out, but making my watch list and just sticking to it. I know you're doing similar,
So,
just sticking to your gappers.
yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec, but the follow-up question is, when you look at something like MSTR, do you think that's going to go into a situation that you're going to want to trade tomorrow? If it is like gapping around red, green, green, red?
Yeah, it technically fits a pattern that I want to be trading. And that's another thing. I just really want to be focused on stuff like I feel like when you're too into trading, like you're paying attention to every tick of every ticker. I definitely watch too much stuff, and end up trading a lot of stuff that isn't the main watch of a lot of other traders, and that gets me stuck in a lot of liquid crap, which is something I definitely want to cut out of my trading. And something like MSTR, I think, is on the attention of a lot of people. I think a lot of people have either gotten squeezed. Someone like Kyle made a bunch of money on the long side, but that definitely fits into that, SMCI, old days of Tesla, big picture, overextended large cap, and there is a lot of range there. So it is something that does interest me. That should come into my wheelhouse.
I will argue that the first red day on large caps, and maybe it's other patterns too, have actually been working better than small caps. I like if you think about DJT, if you think about DXYZ, like those kind of work really well. Where it's like when you get the small caps, you get a bunch of head fakes. Like BTCT was like that. That didn't look fun until you were super patient, had to wait for it.
Yeah,
Uh, so large caps, I'm a little bit more willing to play. SMCI was super easy back way back when. So interesting little paradigm shift. But I do think that there are head fakes a lot more often in the micro cap world.
I would agree. Or I feel like this year we've gotten a lot of. It hasn't been as simple as Green Day overextension, and then red to green move or green to red move. It's been like the day of death is like a 25% to 50% gap up, and if you don't attack it that morning, then you kind of don't get any of the downside, and you definitely aren't chasing when it actually does go red. So I think they have been a little bit difficult this year, and I've certainly taken a lot less of them than I have in years past.
So that leads me to, obviously, like, how am I doing with the gappers? For those of you who don't know, I just pretty much short every single thing that gaps up super big and small cap. And mainly I started doing that because I started struggling with these first red day concepts. I was like putting in a lot of energy and effort and having a hard time sizing into one and not the other. And at the end of the, about like a year of trying that, I just wasn't hitting the same, I guess, win rate and frequency and percent gain and dollars that I had been in the past on that setup. So I was like, all right, we got to change it because the definition of doing something the same times over and over and over is the definition of insanity. And if you expect different results, it's just not going to come. So where I have had results are on these bigger chip stocks, which is like SMCI, I think is still my biggest gain year to date. So I arguably am very interested in MSTR.
The options trade.
Yeah,
Are you gonna options trade this?
I want to. I'm a little worried that so in order to make a lot of money in my mind, it's got to pull like $80 a share, and I have to be kind of yeah. I think it's got to pull. So my like if I was going to take an options trade tomorrow, I think it's got to go to 400 for me to think it's like maybe 1 to 5 risk reward because the option is pretty much going to expire worthless if it doesn't hit that or if it doesn't, go down. So I would much rather go one more day, get closer to Friday, and then take that gamble because I feel like then it's like I can make a lot of money. I think $80 would be a lot easier from 600 than 480 type of thing, just in terms of range. But yeah, I think it'd be pretty hard to ignore if it gapped on. I might just trade the commons though, since it's Thursday and not Friday.
Yeah, I think if it's anything but easy, I'll be giving it one try and then moving on. Because the last thing I want to do is fight that over and over and over again.
I did look at the parabolic from 2021, and it does look like after the 3 green days in a row, it ended with a gap down that kind of flushed $40 a share from 100. So maybe tomorrow is that day. We'll see. We'll see. Good watch either way. I just pray it goes higher so we can get their options trade on it.
Friday Delta neutral play.
Exactly.
All right,
Um,
everybody, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Starting to get more of you funneling in here. I don't think it's possible to get to 50 likes because I don't think there's 50 people watching. Wine Wednesdays are always a little bit lighter, a little bit more casual than our Good Morning Nasdaqs that me and Huddy do together. Kyle is out traveling right now, so we are missing him right now. But he's actively trading. I actually don't think he made a trade this morning, but he's doing quite well. He's long MSTR from much lower as an investment. If it has something to do with crypto, Kyle knows what's going on. But if you have questions, this is your time. This is like your free webinar of the week. You're with us for an hour. We'll run this thing till 8 o'clock. And if you have any questions, let us know. Let us
Also,
know.
to put it on your guys' list, next week I have confirmation from Bryce Dewey and Matt Monaco that Tweedledee and Tweedledum will be on, and that should be a really good time. Good camaraderie between us boys, and they're both millionaire traders too, so good guys to ask questions to as well. So mark that in your calendars. That'll be next week. It'll be a full house. There's 5 of us.
Which one's Tweedledee?
I haven't decided yet. We'll see at the end of the Wine Wednesday.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So get those comments in there. Get your questions. All right, we got one in here. Jay, just straight up Jay, says last week you talked about discretionary versus systematic trading. Do you have a hard time sticking to the system, even when your trade review says the strategy works? If not, any tips? Discretionary feels more natural, but the results speak for themselves. System feels much harder.
It's so
It's a great
interesting
question
because
for
I think
Huddy.
I think in its essence, system is so much easier because you're literally it takes all of the decision making out of your hands. I mean, you have a process. It says on paper that it's profitable, and all you have to do is push the buttons when it says pushing the buttons. So that's a lot easier than trying to determine through reading level two and reading the candlesticks minute by minute to decide, oh, there's a top and it's going to pull back right now. I think that's arguably you're going to be that's a tougher thing to do. Um, I have a hard time being discretionary while I'm being systematic. That's the way. That's the part I struggle with right now. Part of me wants to be discretionary. Part of me wants to short this first red day on SDR discretionarily. The other part of me says your systematic trades are printing literally every single day. What it feels like right now, and my account is compounding. Like, do I really need money from anywhere else in the market? Absolutely not. If I really wanted to have like an extraordinary year, then yeah, I would have to take that other opportunity in the market, but it's cherry on top. It's not main business function right now. Um, so I don't know. I mean, discretionary, I think is harder. I think it makes you more money if you are discretionary because you have tighter risk levels and such, and maybe some good reads here and there that put you in really awesome situations, risk reward wise. But systematic is more of a grind. Systematic is you're not going to have like all of a sudden a big gain. You're going to have very small gains ideally, and it's just going to be a constant uptrending equity curve. If you look at my kinfo, it's like just a straight line to the top right direction. So it is a grind, and unless you figure out ways to compound it, it stays that way. So what's the question?
I think you danced into it and around it and all over it.
Yeah, I think I danced on it.
Yeah, I think it's funny because for 95% of my career, I've been discretionary. I've dabbled in the systematic stuff that you and Kyle do, and I've seen the data, I've seen the numbers, I've done it for myself, and I think it's people underestimate how much discipline and it actually takes to be systematic, even when you have the data, because you definitely
It,
go
it's
through.
a whole it's a whole separate section of your brain. I'm convinced that you have to tap into.
It is, and I think it's really difficult to be discretionary and systematic in like the same account or on the same days.
Yep.
And I do think it's a challenge of in and of itself, unless you have an algo running or it's completely out of your hands and just doing it for you. I think there is a lot of discipline that goes into it because you are going to go through stretches, no matter how good your data looks, where you lose 5 times in a row, you lose full size, or you don't make any money that month. And it's very similar to discretionary, but I feel like we have so much control over discretionary, and systematic is more of we're just going to let the data play out and we hope that what has happened in the past continues to happen. And I don't think either is for everyone. I do think you have to find out who you are and what fits you. You know, I haven't given systematic enough time, but I do think I don't like that not having that control and just hoping that something continues to work in the future that has been proven to work in the past. So I will just maybe that doesn't answer your question, but
I had the
it
same problem.
yeah, but it does. Because they say I have a hard time sticking to the system, even when the data says it works. I think that's normal, and that's something you probably have to work through, just as a discretionary trader has to work through not taking trades that don't fit their system. Their more discretionary system when it comes to whatever patterns they trade. We've all been there where we go through days or weeks where we're way outside the system. We're trading stuff because someone else is. We're buying day one runners when that's not something we do. We're shorting too early. We're fighting stocks. All the rules that we break, that stuff comes into play as well on system trading, and you just got to
But
continue working through it.
I know that through system, I haven't had any like outsized losses. I haven't had really any of these like anxiety attacks about like, did I do things correct? Did I make any like it's just so much more straightforward, I think, than when you're trading like the live action. You feel like less of a trader. So it's definitely difficult because like you come to the market, you want to read the action, you want to have an opinion on something like MSTR, whatever it is, and you're not really allowed to have that. You're really just here to operate and strategy. And it's not like necessarily fun. It really takes the fun out of trading, and I think for a lot of people that could be a good thing. I really do. I've done both, right? I did my first 6 years discretionary trading everything. That's where I made most of my money, and this is kind of a shift lately. And I honestly have never been, or it feels like I'm at such a like equal bay with my trading. Um, it's awesome. It's an awesome place to be at right now.
I think that's what we're all ultimately trying to get through, and I feel like 8 years in, and I'm still trying to get there.
Feel.
Where you're just trying to get to a place where, like, week to week, you're just happy and comfortable with what you're doing,
Yeah.
and that's really difficult in trading. I feel like every year we've had, there's months when we absolutely kill it, and there's months where we just can't get anything right, whether they're red or small green or break even, or even years that where we go through stretches and we just don't have it. And it's a lot of figuring it out. It's a lot of going back through the numbers and going into our psyche and our subconscious, working on that as well. But
I
that is
think
the goal.
I think I think for this month, last month was really good for me. If you guys are in Clover, you guys absolutely know that I have a problem sticking to the system, and that's been like this year-long battle, and I'm new to doing it. But this month, I think I only have one trade that's not a system trade, and that's the Fannie Mae breakout, which my second highest uh, trade of the year. So how can I ignore that? I have to come, back from where the money was good.
It was nice. It's been that's I've traded that like 3 times in the last 2 weeks. But
I bought the 241. I had good risk reward. I sold in the 260. It was like honestly nothing crazy. It just felt like free money.
you have some fun.
I had a little bit of fun.
Yeah, see, that's what matters.
I could have held the whole day, but I was like, F it. Like this pays for half a loss of a system trade. Like that feels good.
Yeah, I held and then had to deal with huge pullbacks. It's not the same as it once was,
Don't like
unfortunately.
I don't want those like that's the end of the night anxiety feelings that I hate, like being short something all day and it spikes massively. I mean, I guess that still happens to me.
It does.
Um, would you consider today MSTR a doji for starter short or not quite? I think that end of day pull might be that like first indication that like this thing is extended and it can pull quite hard. Like I think that's the warning shot. Does that mean it has to go down tomorrow? No, but I think it's soon. I definitely know it's soon. With that type of price action, and maybe that is absolutely indication of the first red day coming. It's tied to Bitcoin. It's hard to say anything's for certain. But I do think like when you get towards the top, the pulls get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's usually when you start to feel like that loosening of the bid, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now because I was sleeping. I didn't see it. So it kind of stuffed high day, then pulled back to
Yanked.
470. Let's see what a
So
daily
everyone
looks
bought
like.
500 and then sold.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by a doji. I just see a thick green candle. It looks like it has the last 2 days. So a starter short, that's not for me. That's anti everything we've talked about so far in terms of feeling good, feeling comfortable,
Yeah.
feeling happy, going to bed at night. Um, there are so many different ways that this could open at 4 a.m. tomorrow, at 7 a.m. And I would much rather see it with no position than, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to short selling. Like this last year, I feel like that would be a huge rule break for me to just short today. And then that's like, I feel like the perfect way to get
That's how you
stuck
got
in
into
it all day
FFIE.
tomorrow. Yeah.
That's what FFIE was for you.
Yep. It's just like,
You short like
we're up enough that it's not going to stop me out. It's going to be down soon. Yeah, that
yeah.
just looks clean. I mean, it's tough to say. Tomorrow's what, Thursday? It's not a doji in my eyes. It looks much more clean. Uh, we'll see what a red move does when and if we get that. But shorting on a green candle like that on something this extended with this many eyes on it does not feel safe to me. And they're just holding overnight.
Also, you have like again, like just Bitcoin, the fact that it trades off another asset. Like if you look at a Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin doesn't look done. Bitcoin's consolidating at the highest. It looks quite bullish. It looks like it's going to 100K. So you also have that to kind of contend with in the back of your mind, like swinging overnight. What if Bitcoin opens up at 97K tomorrow? It's going to gap up. What if it trades differently than Bitcoin? Like that can also happen. So
Anything is
um,
possible.
anything is possible.
And I
MST are
don't want to
anticipating a
be in it.
push over 500 to 550 or likely to push 600. How would you gauge this? Yeah, I have no idea. I think most of the predictability on where MSTR was going to go was like a month and a half ago. I think it's really hard to anticipate what it's going to do from here. And I think it's probably more likely to pull back than push higher. But again, like Dom said, anything's possible. And we just got to react to the price action when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to play something when
You'd
I
be
feel like
buying on
people,
day three up 200% in a month.
yeah, no thanks. And just when I feel like we build charts up in our head with like this is a huge opportunity. Whenever Dux makes 3 million, or all the traders seem to have huge days. What was that? Was it DJT recently on the Sell the News? And I feel like people build it up in their head and then put too much pressure on themselves to trade it perfectly. And that's when you get questions of, I need the top so I can build in and get max size. And so I'll short it a day early and then I'll build in when it goes red. And then all of a sudden you're just taking loss after loss before the play is actually even there. And so the way I try to look at them just like any other pattern. And because it's such a great opportunity, I end up making more than I do. And this isn't how I always traded. I used to try to go much bigger on these type of things. But just create a plan and stick to it. You don't want to be just like discretionarily all over the place, longing it, shorting it, going against your system just because it's a big picture, big potential type of play. You still want to trade it in your wheelhouse. So if it gaps down too much, if it gaps up too much. Like you don't need to trade something just because everyone else is if it's not in your wheelhouse. So I try to, when I make my watch list after this, I will probably have, a red move, either a green to red move, a small gap down, risk off today's highs, something very simple like I would any other stock. But I'm not going to have in there like I have to trade this. I can't miss it no matter what. I'd be okay missing it. Maybe that's just where I'm at in life right now, but I think that will make me feel a lot better about not losing a lot on something just because I think it's a better opportunity.
Nice. You got 3 green days in a row. You got kind of volume expanding. Today was the biggest volume day out of the past 3 days. It's been a clean trend with red green holding. The breakout worked nicely over 380, and I guess we're $100 higher in 2 days. So yeah, I mean, if there's $100 a range, I do see a world where you can probably find 25, $50 quite easily if it's weak.
$29.
That's in between those ranges. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Fran says,
Um,
"Are either of you in Bitcoin, and do either one of you think it's worth it to get in now, or is it too high already and missed the boat?" Definitely not answering the second one. Cannot give financial advice. Uh, I don't know about Huddy. I'm not in Bitcoin.
I have like
A shekel.
I have things. I have things. I own iBit. I own Ethereum. I own Pepe. I own Astro. I own Coinbase. I own. That's probably it. I own those 5 things. Uh, None of them are actually directly Bitcoin, and iBit itself is not even Bitcoin. So it is Bitcoin, but it's not, right? It's not. I don't own the physical Bitcoin on Coinbase. I kind of got in a year ago, right? And I've been holding ever since. Just playing like the 4 year trajectory of Bitcoin. It seems like for the past 8 years, there's been this like very specific cycle to it. So my whole thing was buying on the dip, buying when Bitcoin was down like 70% off the highs. That's where I think one would find good risk reward. For instance, like Bitcoin 20K, like right, that's 2022 and you're risking zero and you're thinking maybe it goes back to the highs or maybe it goes to 100K, that's 1 to 5 type risk reward. Whereas now, if you're buying at 90, like let's say you're risking zero, like same equation, you buy 90, you risk zero. Okay, now you're saying it has to go to 180, and then that's literally only 1 to 1. So you can see mathematically, although Bitcoin sure could go up from here, it's not a good risk reward equation from any of these areas if risking the death line, which to me in Bitcoin is zero because it's more of an investment, not really a day trade type of mentality. So I think the risk reward is shot. I think chasing it up here, I mean, like I said, it could still go up. I'm not saying it can't go up. It could also go down. I just think risk reward isn't good anymore. I don't think that means you missed the boat. It just means that you missed the A plus area to be buying, in my opinion.
I just don't know
But
anything
like what?
about it.
Michael Saylor just bought $4 billion worth just the other day, and he thinks it's going to be as big as the S&P 500. So if he's right, then you have not missed the boat by any means. But who knows if he's right? Right? He's a dreamer and a believer.
Yeah, I'm not either of those because I don't know anything about it. I think I made like
Yeah,
two thousand
it's
dollars
hard
on
for me to talk
Bitcoin.
to Kyle every day and not become a dreamer and a believer.
Yeah, he didn't start. I didn't know him early enough to where I could have believed in it. Because then I always just thought it was up too much, and I was like, it doesn't sound as much fun.
Yeah, I think the reason I bought Ethereum is because I lost $9,000 on some marijuana stock in like 5 minutes. It was really quick. It was awesome. And Kyle's like, see, you can lose 9,000 in 5 minutes, or you can lose 9,000 over your lifetime, and you just buy Bitcoin or buy Ethereum. And I was like, all right, fine. What's another 9K? It's worked out.
There you
Good advice.
go.
Glad you told me to do that.
Fernando L says hi. I like the first red day setup, but is very infrequent. I'm getting squeezed a lot on gappers like today, SPAI. Any recommendation to short selling? Well, that's a broad question, and that's like a three-part thing. I looked at
Okay.
SPAI on my phone, and that is not a first
Okay.
red day setup. I don't know if you have charts or what.
But he says I got squeezed a lot in gappers like SPAI today.
It wasn't a gapper.
Well, everyone has a different definition of a gapper, but it definitely gapped up today. I mean, I don't think it's wrong to say it gapped up. So
Did it gap
the
up?
first red day setup is great, but is very infrequent. Okay. That's more of a statement, so not really a question there. That's fine. I'm getting squeezed a lot in gappers like SPAI today. Any recommendation to short selling? My thing for gappers, it's not really a recommendation. This is just what I do. I focus on the biggest percent gainers that I possibly can. So SPAI is something that I personally wouldn't have been watching. It's not a big percent gainer. And the other way I like to do it is I like to use super wide risk when attacking it. My goal on a gapper is to have my risk level where no one else has their risk level. And my opinion is that anyone shorting a gapper is risking high day at some point. And that is like generally a place that I don't want to be risking because I don't want to be covering where 90% of people are covering and losing. So I use wide risk and I focus on the biggest percent gainers. It's not necessarily going to help you, but that's just what I do.
Yeah, I try to look at myself as a long bias trader that that sells short sometimes. And I really enjoy short selling, but I think by not trying to be a short seller, I end up being on top of the right stocks because I only want to short sell stuff that is truly overextended. Um, because if you just call yourself a short seller, I feel like you find any reason to short sell anything, whether it's a day one gapper, day two of a runner. SPAI never really, even today, is barely extended in my opinion. um, so if you really try to quantify extension in your own mind with your own stats, um, hundreds of percents. Like we're talking about the best of the best. Like every week we have some stock that's up multiple hundreds of percents. Sorry, guys. And those are the ones I want to focus on short selling, and ones that aren't too low of a float to where I know I'm going to get stopped out or chopped around. Ones where the pattern's really easy. Like even if it's infrequent, you might not be able to only trade first red day shorts, but when they come around, I'm definitely watching them, and especially when they set up really easily. Like if MSTR were tomorrow to open, I don't know, where did it close? Let's say it closed at 480. Open at 485, go red, and I can risk $5 a share to make 20 to 40. Like that should be the best first red day of the month for me, and it's worth waiting for. So, I don't know how any recommendation on short selling. Focus on really overextended stuff. Don't fight trends. Don't If a stock is strong all day, why do you want to short sell it? Like wait for some sort of change in trend, whether it's an intraday or a multiple day or serious stuffage into resistance. Find other reasons to short sell something just because it's green and moving.
Yeah. There also have been a lot of great first red days in the month of November. I mean, it's in my mind. I can already think of four, maybe five. Uh, so I mean, they're infrequent, but like five in 20 days is, you know, 20% of the days you have a trade that can yield some good results. Like it's not that infrequent. It's not like an OTC breakout. That's not to be seen.
That's infrequent. Garrett says, I asked y'all a couple of days ago about shorting DXYZ in the mid 40s. Wonder if you did. I'm wondering if that was
I did not.
the first time it went on the initial run or the bounce. I
Well, it
lost on
had
it
to
the
be
other
the
day.
first run. It had to be the first run because that was a couple weeks ago. I know Kyle shorted it. I know he made an absolute freaking killing, shorting it from 11:11 down to 11:14. Those are the dates. Um, and I know that he's re-shorting it. Like these are just things I know. And he's in it right now. So more of a swing short thesis. I don't think like I said, it's not my job to be touching these things right now, so I haven't really traded it, which is so crazy to hear myself say.
Yeah, but even that one is kind of what I'm talking about, right? You have a big gap up day with a red candle and then a gap down from like 43 to 36. So the first red day is kind of tough there. You're already chasing it down more than 10%. Um, but yeah, no, I didn't short it there. If it doesn't happen easily, then I'm just not involved. I don't really care to miss them because they always can do more harm than good. I feel like for me. Um, Jay, how often would you say it is normal to go through cycles of feeling like I'm killing it, then the market shifts, and it's like, hold up, what patterns are working now? And you got to size down and adapt to new plays. It's tough when market is ripping and you're slow adapt. Then you adapt and the plays slow down. ETC playing daily gappers pre-market. Huddy,
Cliffhanging for me to answer.
anytime I see the
Um,
words gappers.
I don't. I wish Jack Kellogg was here because I don't succumb to this belief that the market shifts and the patterns change and all of a sudden breakouts work and then they don't work, or first red days work and then they don't work. I think there are better built breakouts, there are better built scenarios, there are better built environments, sure. But it's really hard to like I just like first and foremost, I don't succumb to this like, oh, what how do I say this? Like I see people say it all the time about like pre-market gappers and like getting a feel for like what the crowd is doing and then like, oh, that's the theme for the rest of the week or whatever. I don't necessarily know how much that holds credence in my brain. I'll tell you what I've done because that's the only place I could speak from. My patterns have changed over the years. For instance, 2017 to 2020, all I did was short first red days. Okay. Overextended gap downs predominantly, but really anything having a first red day after three really big green days in a row. So MSTR, DJT, um, DXYZ, those are some chart examples from this month. Then 2020 and 2021 hit, and predominantly all I did was buy OTC breakouts because that's what worked really well. Again, that's not like shifting on like market environments on a week to week basis. That's saying, okay, like this is what I did from 2017 to 2019, 2020 and 2021. We actually entered in a different market where there was an OTC breakout or six every single day. And that's what needed to be focused on. That's what was really making differences in my accounts. Then in 2022 and 2023, when that completely dried up, I started short selling gappers. And I take the same approach to gappers every single day. No matter what you're like this whole year, I have not changed the way that I approach a single gapper, right? It's kind of the same exact box that I live in. And so whatever happened today, whatever happened last week, whatever happened last month does not affect the fact that the gappers are the way that I attack them are a proven strategy over a 10-year period. So I don't succumb to the belief that on a week to week or month to month or quarter to quarter that the market actually changes that much. I think there's certain dynamics that change, as I kind of illustrated over a 9-year period. Um, but yeah, I don't think you want to be making too many minor shifts in your trading based off what you saw a month ago or what you saw last week. Um, but again, that's just my style. I don't. I think that's really tough to do. To because I think our minds play tricks on us. To be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree with all that. The big shifts in my trading have been market cycles changing, but over longer periods of time, not necessarily, definitely not week to week. I think I'm one of the worst traders in terms of adapting to current market cycles. So it's something kind of like a willful ignorance of just not thinking about that stuff. But I trade primarily big picture daily chart setups. You talk about trading daily gappers pre-market, where especially if you're on the long side of those, I think there probably is um, a lot of attention on the cycle of right now and what's going on right now. Are we in a period of 4 days where everything is squeezing 300% plus? Are we in a stretch right now where every gapper is running 2% and then fading all day? Like I think as a long bias gapper trader, that stuff probably is really really relevant. But for what I'm trying to do, which is take advantage of overextension or buy stocks that are kind of extended for overextension that are already hot right now, I'm like waiting for stocks to prove it to me. So it's not necessarily a market thing. Um, but yeah, if you're constantly trying to find out what the cycle is and you're always behind it, it can feel like this cat and mouse game that never ends. I think that's really frustrating. But maybe, yeah, I don't really know. It's just not something I think about too much because I think that's another layer that can lead to me making mistakes. I don't want to make my decisions based off of some non definite information, like me thinking that the market is hot or cold or in between, and then be sizing down on an opportunity because I think the market's cold, and that was the one opportunity that was supposed to make me all my money for the month. And I think a lot about that stuff, and I always think I would have more regrets by not being there trading it the exact way I want to versus changing stuff up, um, and then being upset that I didn't have more size or trade it the same way. So I try not to think about that stuff, because at the end of the day,
I
I
even
feel like I'm
remember
always
like
behind.
I remember the other day, and maybe Kyle was right to do this, maybe he's wrong. Trading is such a personal and unique experience for everyone. But I remember when Fannie Mae broke out at 240. That's the breakout that I bought, and Kyle was like, no, I don't want to buy this because DJT's having a first red day. DXYZ is off the highs. So like Fannie Mae won't break out successfully. And then, Fannie Mae breaks out at 240 and runs to three. So it had nothing to do with those plays. It was its own little beast, but he correlated them in the moment and then missed the play. And so like that's exactly what we're kind of trying to avoid, letting these like little independent factors affect the other things that don't really correlate necessarily, but our brain makes it a correlation.
Yeah, I think the best trader, I think of Roland, I think of Kellogg, the people that do this the best. And I just think most people are never going to be them. I don't think me and Huddy will ever
Yeah,
be
I
them, and we
agree.
know them personally. And trying to do that is very difficult. And I'm not sure if it can be taught. I think, something I always think, and I admire Jack for, is his ability to like wrap his mind around like 45 different things on one play just by pulling it up one time. Like the catalyst. Oh, the ticker name sounds cool. Oh, the float's this. Oh, this type of stock did this yesterday. So this is exactly what I see right now. And being able to find all this information, pick out what matters, and then do the right thing today. Most people will never be able to do that, which is why Huddy gravitates to one specific system. I gravitate to big picture charts that take time to develop, so I have time to come up with a plan on them. And we've really dumbed it down for ourselves. So every extra layer of information needed to calculate is killing us over time because we don't want to make more decisions. We don't want to have to think about it more because that will lead to indecision, to constantly switching things up, to never really getting to a consistent place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there are ways to like I've talked to other gap and crap short sellers who talk about market sentiment and like what have they done for this month, but it's like really hard for me to say, okay, given this month's, action, like is it going to continue into next month? Like should I turn off the system and turn it back on? I think there are ways to derive that data. I ain't smart enough to do it and I don't want to do it.
Mm-mm.
I'm just gonna like kind of sit through the bad times and let it take the losses, and then ideally, if the strategy is robust enough, like when it flips, it'll come back and the money will come back. And then that's how it's been for me this whole year. So even when things get a little dicey, they also undice.
That's cool. They
Um,
undice.
they undice. Fran Petrillo, did you guys decide if you're going to come to Buffalo or not for a conference ever? I don't think
Believe it or not,
Buffalo.
that's never been on the table.
That was never, yeah, that was never on the dart throw of like,
I
I guess maybe it should be. They have good wings, right?
think so.
So, word on the street is we are planning a boot camp, an in-person boot camp, a blowout, if you will.
Kinda.
Keep it low key, but also keep your eyes out for it. If you guys do want to come in person, learn from us, hang out with us, drink with us, and talk about stocks for 3 or 4 days straight, and network with other traders. We are planning one on the West Coast for kind of like winter, spring. So keep your eyes out for that. We haven't done one in quite a long time. Uh, and we're only doing it because we find a lot of joy and value in them. We hope to see all you guys there if you guys can make it out. Either way, keep your eyes out for it. And it'll be probably Los Angeles is the city.
Blah.
It's my hometown. I
Fernando.
don't appreciate that.
It's the time zone for a boot camp for the
I hear
live
you.
trading day. Fernando says, "Do you do statistics? What do you think of flash research?"
I do amateur statistics. Dom does not necessarily do statistics. Most of us actually, like Dom, Kyle, and Jack Kellogg, they do not do statistics. Am I fair to say that?
Yes.
Now they do have stats on their trade. They don't do like back testing statistics. You do, and all of them do, like what's the pattern? How many of those trades did I take? What's average win, average loss, win rate, all that good stuff to understand where their strengths are. That's a different type of data than stock data. I the way that I trade gappers is from a very statistical approach. I don't use flash research, but I'm sure flash research can pull up and simulate strategies and give stats behind gappers individually and maybe as an aggregate. I'm not too affluent with their website, but the times that I have used them, I like them. They're just not integral to my trading. Spike Eat is more integral because that is like the statistics, and I think flash research has capabilities. I just don't know for sure.
I think flash research is more for the discretionary trader to get a leg up on the behavior of an individual stock.
but it can also do aggregate things. It can do more than that.
I've only used it a couple times, but I liked it for those reasons. But then I still feel like I get too caught up in what that does, and then if it says the stock fades all day, I'll be shorting it all day if that never comes.
So,
Um, hmm,
Los Angeles. Yeah, I think their last boot camp was March in New York. So this will be probably
a
like
year.
a year. Wow.
Mm-hmm. William says Bitcoin looking to make new highs. Maybe Master doesn't gap down. Yeah, I just looked at it.
That's the dream.
It was spiking just now.
I really hope MSTR goes one more day.
I hope it
That
goes
would
to
make me
like
very happy.
700. Back at
Wow.
490.
Perfect.
William says you can do stats of flash research. Well, there you have it. There you have it.
There you have it. William knows everything.
And blah blah blah. Questions. Did we miss any? Jenica wants to know what's your A plus setup. You don't really have one, do you? Because all yours are like just as long as they fit the criteria, they technically are just like a setup.
Yeah. So generally when you're thinking about like ranking setups, you're thinking about like maybe different risk tolerances. Like if something's A plus, if I'm like I'm gonna use really small numbers so no one gets mad at me. If like my normal risk per trade is $10 and I see an A plus trade, maybe I'm risking 15, right? Um, an A plus version of it. So um, there's a couple. For me, like right now, I don't have any version of that. I do not do that right now. All I do is I play the systems trades, and I have a very systematic approach to, based off my account size, is based off how much I'm betting, and it grows or diminishes with how well the strategy itself is performing, which is kind of exciting. Um, if I had an A plus setup, it would be more in like the first red day situation mixed with some type of big picture thesis behind it. For instance, I really like DJT going into the election when we start to extend into the 55s and now we're gapping into all of this. Like if you're looking at a chart, that's probably the best way to follow along. But if you're watching DJT run from $10 to $50, and 3 weeks before the election, you can start to think that this could be a sell the news event, that we've run quite some distance and there is a reversion to the mean. Um, and simultaneously, as that's happening, he's not elected. We have some time in between, and we're gapping up into all this resistance from 6 or 7 months ago. So, is it going to go, just break out all from 10 to through 70, or is it going to have some pullbacks, consolidate, and then maybe not even ever break out, right? So that's the situation we're looking at, and I think that makes for a very good first red day setup because not only does the daily chart align, but you can kind of think of the narrative and think of the bigger picture thesis here, which is this is a sell the news event and we're gapping into giant resistance. And I think the stock can pull back. I think it can consolidate somewhere not near the highs, at least as we get closer to the election. So it makes for a very, it makes for a good setup. I like that. I like it when they both align.
I kind of have two answers. One, the broad idea would just be any situation in which I'm able, based off of the way that when the stock comes into my wheelhouse into one of my patterns, uh, gives me a way to make 5 to 10 to 1 risk reward. Any situation where, because of how tight the range is, or where my trigger level is, or how the stock gets to red green or green red, it's just a great situation in terms of risk reward. I think there's a lot of setups where the setup itself isn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, but the way that the risk reward sets up based off of how small an area I have to risk versus how much I think the stock can do, either up or down, that is A plus. And sometimes you get A plus results out of a B plus setup, if that makes sense. The answer I think you want me to say is like situational. And that's probably, multi-day breakouts and first screen days on some sort of sector momentum when we get a bunch of stocks in one world from one sector, one space that are all moving together. And there's 3 or 4 of them, and they're all running 3, 4, 500%, and setting up for breakouts within that area. And then, buying them for breakouts. One, the head of the snake breaks out big, and because of that, the rest of them break out as well. So it's really easy to see. I can be super patient because when we have sector momentum, it generally lasts longer than you think. So you can be more patient, look to swing, build into a position, be more aggressive, not necessarily with risk, but in terms of patience and adding to a winner. And then first green is on those again because you kind of have the added benefit of someone's going to lead the pack. So when you have 3 or 4 stocks all running on similar news or because they're in a similar sector and that area is hot right now, they're all going to break out on the same day most likely. They're all going to have their first green day and their first red day together. So it makes it a lot easier. You can pick the one with the best range and the best risk reward. So those situations are where I've made the most money is when we have some overarching thesis and multiple stocks are running because of it.
I'll also add on. I mean, I have other A+ versions too. I just don't really trade them anymore. First green days, I love when it's tied to a sector, as Dom was saying. I think it's just easier when things get extended, like say like all the Bitcoin stocks that just had a first green day the other day. It's like they all got super extended. They pulled back for 2 or 3 days, and then they had it for a day because people are willing to come in on dips, with Bitcoin stocks. Like it's a psychological thing, and that helps me have more conviction on those when I know that the crowd is still there, so to speak. And then, like on breakouts in general, if I was to play a breakout, I want something that, sustains its volume. I want something that doesn't have overhead resistance. I want something that has a catalyst, something strong, and ideally a decent share structure where there's not like this massive ATM or this shelf or any kind of thing that could absolutely ruin me overnight. Though that is a better situation than not. And if I am looking for those setups, those are the setups, those are the scenarios I'm looking for. But it's just hard to stay disciplined to them.
Love it. Timmy says Fifi setting up again. Obviously not yet, but a few weeks or days. If something is a few
I
weeks
don't,
from setting up, then it's nowhere near my watch list.
yeah, I don't really know what you would be thinking FFIE is setting up for. Maybe you're gonna say like dead cat bounce type of language. I just don't think there's really a setup here. I think it's more of like a maybe it bounces type of question. And I don't think that's enough conviction for my money. You understand that FFIE is like one of the more dilutive, horrible piece of crap stocks in the market. And yeah, it ran for a couple days, but like look at the price action ever since. I mean, imagine how many bag holders, imagine any kind of bounce gets sold into. That's what my brain thinks when I look at a chart like this. And even if it did set up on a multi-day period, like unless it's trading like 200 million shares on a daily basis, like this thing is not going to have my interest anytime soon. And if it randomly does bounce, and you're right, okay, great. But I think it's hard to predict given everything I just said. So those are the
Let
things to
stocks
grapple
come
with.
to you. You don't need to predict that they're going to run in a few weeks or days. If you think something is setting up soon, have it on watch. Create a plan. Watch the certain levels. But I don't think it's unless that's exactly what you do is like try to predict stuff before it happens, and buy stuff early. You said dead cat short. Well, that's really easy then. All you have to do is wait for it to pop up on your scanner and say that it's ran 150%. So
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, with that, Timmy, like I would love to short FFIE one last time, or whatever it is. But um, yeah, I wouldn't even be watching the chart. I would put like a price alert, like 250 if it ever hits that, like alert me on my scans, right? And I don't really even think that's gonna happen. If it does, then
or
great, we'll be there for it.
get yourself in Clover because if that happens and it needs to be shorted, I'm sure Kyle Williams will be talking about it.
He will be.
And that's the best thing I
Um,
think about chat rooms, good ones anyway, is that you don't really need to do any predicting because the stocks that are worth trading, long and short, on an intraday basis in terms of gappers, on a big picture basis, like multi-day breakouts or first red days, someone's talking about it, someone's bringing it to your attention, and you don't need to do a bunch of side work trying to find what stuff is going to run. You just got to follow where the extension is. William says, Dom, did you say you had pneumonia? That is rough, buddy. Yes, I do. Not like the sick kind, the cough kind. Fu Rani says, do you have specific entry styles on certain setups? Like for a breakout, are you looking for a certain entry, like 5 minute high daybreak, or something, or do you just look at intraday for something to set up? Yeah, every setup for me has different entry styles. Probably don't have time to go through all of them, but yeah, for me, like breakouts, I'm pulling up intradailies, looking at a 5-day 5 minute, 3-day 15 minute, looking for any level underneath the breakout level that I think matters. With the breakout level being the last area that I'm willing to buy over. Um, for reversals, it's 5 minute high break. For first green days, it's usually a red to green move, or breaking through some level from the previous day. For first red days, it's a red to green move. Um, Almost all the time, that's if I just actually do that, I make more money than trying to short them on while they're green. But every single play for me has a different way to enter, and again, it's not been decided because of back testing. It's been decided just based off of what I like to do and when I like to be involved in them,
Um,
and it's usually
yeah,
premeditated.
I absolutely have entry styles in certain setups. Like for first red days, it needs to be red before I take an entry.
There you go.
Uh, Otherwise, it's not a first red day, right? On a breakout, traditionally, I've done the stupid thing and I've bought breakouts like at the level, like cross the breakout, prove to me it's a breakout, and then I will buy it. And I think a lot of people don't like that. And I honestly like it's a lot of depression to buy breakouts. I think there's so much letdown in that industry, um, but can be really good risk reward at times and definitely be profitable. It's just when it sucks, it sucks. Yeah, reversals have you already mentioned that. Sometimes I look for candle breakdowns. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely have specific entry styles in certain setups. The answer is yes. You got to have not only criteria, but entry criteria and exit criteria to some extent. You want to have expectations and know like what's a trigger point, right?
And that's what a system is for a discretionary trader, is answering all those questions. How do I enter this specific style? How do I exit? What am I looking for? How do I build my plan and stick to it like a systematic trader once I've created the plan?
So, William, you're asking me about something I don't want to talk about. I should absolutely be swinging QSI. It's an absolute like I don't know what got in my head. This happens to me like probably once a week where I'm trading the gappers absolutely perfectly. I'm following the system, and then one kind of weirds me out. And I'm not allowed to have those thoughts. Like that's absolutely discretionary, right? And the system says ignore it. So QSI, I did cover for like a $90 loss today. I'd be up probably 2,000 right now in the after hours price, right? So it's like, why did I even cover? It's not even a loss. I just kind of took it off and got sick of just watching stocks today. I just didn't want to watch them anymore. And it like really is like something that like I go to the drawing board again and I hack my brain around like why do I do this to myself? I should have my full size. I should be swinging. That's what.
I think we lost Huddy there. We'll give him a second to come back in. He was texting me on the side saying that's why he lost his camera. All right, a few more questions. We'll get out of here. Jara says, can you explain why stocks have a lot of volume and at the open it goes down, then back up and breaks out? I'm assuming breakout you mean breaks through high day. Um, just because something has a lot of volume, I really don't know where to go with this. Stocks are always going to be going up or going down if they have lots of volume, and it just comes down to supply and demand and who's stuck from where and who's winning the battle of longs versus shorts or selling versus buying. Um, yeah, I think what you're asking for is the miracle equation of how to know when something's going to go up and when it's going to go down. But a lot of times you see gappers open on very good volume, up 100%, 150%, and immediately they get sold off because you have a lot of people who are holding from the previous day, maybe someone who owns a stock from a long period of time ago who can't sell till the open, or people who bought in pre-market that were just seeing how high it could go into the open. So you get a flurry of sells. Maybe you have shorts that come in as well, thinking it's up too much. It's got to go down right out of the gate. And so a lot of times you do see that period of time, especially I feel like in the last week we've seen a lot of gappers fade right off the bat, and then make their way up towards High day and breakout. We've seen that a lot with these lower float stocks, even not lower float stocks. I feel like we've seen it a lot recently. Here comes Huddy. There he is. Um, but yeah, I don't have the answer that you're looking for. It's just really that's what stock trading is. Huddy, do you know why stocks have a lot of volume at the open they go down, then they go back up and break out?
I think it goes into the bucket of like I don't really know, and I don't think I'll ever know, and I'm not trying to really find out. I like how would I ever know? All I know is how to like pick a spot and find a high odds entry. While these stocks are doing these crazy things that none of them should be doing. None of them should have volume. None of them should be gapping up 100%. None of them should be dipping or ripping. These are horrible stocks, yet they do crazy things. And I think it's unexplainable. And I'm not here trying to rack my brain to figure out why they're doing the things that they're doing. Although, like we know why they're doing the things they're doing, we just don't know how. We don't know what is causing this magical volume and price action that occurs. I don't know why MSTR grinds against 500 the whole afternoon, breaks out of 500 for $4 a share, and then dumps $40 a share. Like I don't know why it does that. I don't know who does that. Um, but I'm not trying to figure it out. To be honest, I don't really care. I just try to avoid it.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Um, do you guys have any millionaires that are black clovers? Um,
In my mind, we have three really successful students that I see quite often. They talk about stocks correctly. They are focusing on the right patterns that I call it right. We focus on framework patterns, um, and you can tell very quickly when someone starts trading the right things and they're talking about the right things. I don't really necessarily want to say their names because I don't want to put anyone down or bring anyone up, but there are three people in our chat that I thought, or maybe two, two and a half that I think are
2.4.
really getting it. It's hard, right? Because like we can tell you guys what we do all day and we can tell you guys how we make money, but we're never going to be able to really, we're never going to tell you what to do. You're your own boss, you're your own coach, you get to make your own decisions. And so it's really it's hard to bring someone from bottom to top, right? Because a lot of that is I can bring the spoon to your mouth, but I cannot force you to chew on it, right? Um, and so often I see in every chat room, not just my chat room or our chat room, but any chat room I've ever been in, that the majority of people talk about stocks that I would never trade, that I would never be looking at, that I have no idea what's going on, and it does not fit a pattern. And like I can't correct people who are like not focusing on patterns. Like that is number one. Pattern recognition is key.
Which is, I would say, just we're talking about being a good student. What I see the most that irritates me that, again, like you can't just say, hey, don't do this because if you find a way to trade something that I don't agree with in a profitable manner, who am I to say not to do it? But I think for the most part, most people are unprofitable doing whatever they want. Um, and it's hard to watch because I feel like till the cows come home, we try to teach big picture, teach support and resistance, teach simple patterns, and people just want the action. A lot of people just want to trade. They want to click buttons, and sometimes it's hard to watch because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that we would never trade or ideas we would never have. But you got to go through that learning curve, and we're here to help you get to the other side.
Since I've been teaching for what, three, maybe four, back to my stocks to trade days, 5 years, I've kind of come to this conclusion that people join rooms to learn how to trade the things that they want to trade, not the things that the people are saying like that they perform well. They want to like they want to come into our room and learn how to buy, gappers. And it's like, well, there's a reason we don't do it, but if you want to really learn how to do that, yeah, maybe go to Roland's room. Um, but it's like they want to learn what they've been struggling with, not like
What's
just
profitable?
come in and be coachable and just say, hey, I don't know anything. This is a white, canvas. Let's paint it the picture for me instead of, hey, I already have this picture painted. Can you guys make it a little bit more clear for me? And I think that's more the mentality that people come in with. And for everyone, for all, 70 of you guys listening, like you gotta just be teachable.
Yeah, that's the first thing I tell anyone I've ever worked with in person, and I'm allowed to say it to them because they're usually friends, cousins, brothers, parents. I'm like, I will help you, but I want you to take everything I say as Bible, and you don't have to do this stuff forever, but you're going to learn big picture daily chart setups. And then once you figure it out, you can do anything you want to do. And everyone I've ever taught does do their own thing. You know, I do have millionaire students, some that you've seen in some interviews and stuff, and they all do things a lot differently than I do. I mean, J Bones is a scalper, for goodness sake, something I would never, ever do or be okay with doing for me. But, you know, I always say, like, figure it out first, find a way to be profitable, then go out on your own and, you know, learn your own stuff. Once you have, you're allowed to have ideas when you've been doing it for a while and when you're profitable. At the beginning, you're not really allowed to have opinions because you don't know anything. I think a lot of people think their opinions matter in the beginning. Matthew says, do you like QUBT for a breakout? Not if it just goes straight up and does it right now. Huddy, what is quantum? What does that sector mean?
Like, God, where's Cody Pavlak when I need him? That's like computers
Like NVIDIA?
that do, they're like supercomputers, I think, and they do super things that normal computers don't. I could be completely wrong. Like, I'm not that knowledgeable about quantum mechanics.
So you don't even know.
No idea.
Because I feel like you
I
said
don't
that
even know
earlier.
if
You said
quantum
quantum is
mechanics and like,
hot or something. And I'm like,
yeah,
what is quantum?
I don't know. I just know like Ion Q is running, and that's like the bigger cap. And I know that QUPT is running, and QSI was quantum today, which probably like leaked into my brain, and that's why I don't have it anymore because I let my thoughts
On
take me out of a
quantum
stock that I
mechanics.
liked.
But yeah, if it's
So,
set up for a breakout over that, what, 460 or 70 area after bouncing up towards it, I would be interested. It's history of big moves. I like that. Good volume
so
today.
Robert Sorensen, this is an interesting comment. BTCWF 0.50 cent breakout could be great if Bitcoin really starts going. I think 100K break will bring the real sector momentum. I'm going to be honest. Like, as this stream has been going on, I took a photo of the BTCWF chart and I sent it to Dom. And I said, don't forget about this one. I don't know if I really want to buy, like, I don't love the F lettered OTC tickers because that means that they're trading on a foreign market, meaning that there's another stock trading simultaneously. So I expect choppy price action, to be honest, like hard to stay in it because if the other derivative of the stock does something weird, then it could stop you out pretty easily. But I do think that that is a stock that should be watched for this. Like, if I had an OTC sector watch list, DEFTF would be on it, BTCWF would be on it. I think there's one more, but it escapes me. Maybe there's not. Maybe it's just no, there's not.
You could always
I'd
pretend it
watch
doesn't
those
have an
first.
F.
Yeah, you could, and then yeah, I do think that there's truly a chart there with some decent volume, and it's attached to a good sector.
Has
So
BTC in the name, so
yeah, we've seen these things go great. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if BTWF went to $2, like, and Bitcoin went to 100K. That would not surprise me. I just don't know if they're going to make it easy on us to hold that whole way. But I remember
yeah.
back in like 2017, these Bitcoin stocks in the OTC market went freaking nuts.
And they were the biggest headache to hold because
They were
Bitcoin
not
traded
easy.
24/7 and there's no after hours, no pre-market on OTCs. So if you bought a breakout or you got a little aggressive on day 2 and you were kind of thinking, "No, Bitcoin looks primed to be a lot higher tomorrow." And you're sitting there at midnight in bed and you're like, "Oh no, Bitcoin's falling off a cliff." And you knew what was happening tomorrow when you saw the level 2 on your OTC that you cannot get out of until 9:30. Um, yeah, it's kind of far away from the breakout level right now, but that is pretty cute intradaily on BTCWF. I will be honest. All right,
Um,
everybody. It is 8:12, and I need to get to bed because I am tired. Talking for an hour kills me. Um, Huddy, I need you to have some wisdom. Give
I
the
have
people
wisdom
what they want to
every
hear.
day for you.
Give it to them.
I'm out here speaking the words of wisdom. I'm the
Speak the
Beatles,
word of stock.
the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
I
Make me
got
say
nothing.
amen.
Okay, and I got nothing.
Not on the
You
spot.
can't put me on the spot like this.
That's what I thought. All right. Well, thank you to the people who are here. You guys are accelerating your education. You're taking advantage of the free content. If you're not in the room, all good. We're here every day. The market is open, and we really do appreciate you. Appreciate the likes. 50, 60 of you watching. 42 likes. That's awesome. You guys are the best. We wouldn't be able to do it without you, our fantastic audience. Thank you guys for participating, being involved in the chat, asking good questions, because I do think it helps out everybody. When I didn't ask questions, which was a mistake for the longest time when I was trying to figure out this trading thing, and I had to rely on other people's questions for me to learn things. And so, if you have the courage to get in there in the chat, ask your questions, and be vulnerable about it, kudos to you. And we're grateful for you because it makes it doing our job a whole lot easier. With that being said, we're going to wrap up Free Wednesday. We'll see you in about 12 hours at 8:45 a.m. for another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ with myself and Mr. Hudster right there. And we can't wait for it. So go make your watch list, enjoy your nights, and we'll see you first thing tomorrow morning.